Well met, traveler. Welcome to the tavern. Did you know that this magical place is where more than half of history's greatest adventures have begun? Before those adventurers took their first steps, they watched and calculated who would join their party. See that barbarian over there? He hails from the frozen lands. Strong, mighty, and full of wisdom. I've closed many a night with that one. They call themselves Matt Rossi. To the right over there, that woman, working on her tinkers and mechanical devices. An artificer of great skill. She is cunning and quick, and I've seen her bounce a fair share of ne'er-do-wells out of here before I could even step out from behind the bar. She's known as Liz Harper. And that gentleman by the hearth with a pile of tomes. Rumor has it that he is a powerful wizard full of arcane secrets. But around here, most just call him the Professor. Me, I know them to be Phil Ulrich. Oh, me, I'm Joe Perez. I'll be your tavern keeper. Welcome to Tavern Watch.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to Tavern Watch, where we talk about all things tabletop related and tabletop adjacent. I am one of your dice rolling hosts, Joe Perez, and I've got with me the usual band of merry miscreants, I guess we'll go with. That seems fine. Liz Harper, as always, is with us. She's the one that's in charge. How you doing today, Liz?
Hello, I'm doing pretty good.
Always from his deep, dark treks into the forest, living among the wolves, is Matt Rossi. How you doing, Matt?
It's negative 17 degrees Celsius outside, which is basically negative 17 degrees Fahrenheit.
It is cold.
It's cold.
Winter is here for many of us. And then last but not least, having come down from his wizard's tower, we have Phil Ulrich. How you doing, Phil?
Good. Man, this is how you people live down here outside of your tower? Sheesh.
Yeah, I know. Kind of sucks.
You should get your own towers.
Well, I guess we'll start with the traditional questions, friends. What are you playing? What are you looking forward to? And what are you reading? We'll start with Phil, since you're the last to speak.
Oh, no. Let's see. Unfortunately, playing right now is on a little bit of a hiatus because holiday scheduling is worse than usual scheduling.
Mm-hmm.
The elite version of regular scheduling. So my Draw Steel game is currently on hiatus until sometime in January. I have a Fabula Ultima game, which we're still meeting for that because it's an online game, but we have had issues because the good kind of issues, though. One of my members was unable to make it because she was busy learning to GM games at various cons, including at BGG Con. So that's cool. More GMs in the making. And my D&D game is still going. I actually have that coming up probably not long after we finish recording this. I have not. Well, I've been reading lately. I did get new. They updated the MCDM updated the PDFs for Draw Steel, so I've been looking through those. I think it's just been errata changes so far, but just looking for some changes there. Did back a couple of Kickstarters, so I'll be looking forward to those next year. Late pledged to the expansion for Shadowdark, the Guide to the Western Reaches, plus 3 more issues of their Cursed Scroll zine. Each of which usually comes with like a class and some world building and a dungeon crawl, and they're pretty packed for something that's like 20 pages and costs like $15. So I think those are available in PDF. I'm just kind of waiting on the Kickstarter backer kit integration to line up so I can get access to those. Outside of that, that's pretty much what I've been reading / playing / throwing money at lately. So,
well, fair enough. How about you, Matt?
Well, I've been rereading some old stuff, and I've kind of fallen down a well for some new stuff. First up, I'll talk about I've apparently suddenly my brain was like, hey, Free League Publishing exists. And so I've been like just kind of getting what I can get of their stuff. I'll just be upfront, on a budget. I don't have any money. But there's a lot of quick starts and free previews and stuff out for their games. So I've been able to at least get a look at them. And like for right now, the ones I'm liking the most are Mutant Year Zero and Coriolis for science fiction stuff. I'm just the fact that there's assassin ducks in Dragonbane kind of has me. I don't know how else to put this. There's a duck dropping down from the ceiling with giant knives. I'm intrigued. I picked that up. I haven't gotten a chance to really dig into it, but I did pick it up. Otherwise, it's been old stuff. The usual suspects. I've been rereading the Savage Worlds that I have because I own a couple different books and I haven't really looked at them as much as I could have. So I've been rereading those. Do you guys know Blue Rose? Do you remember this game?
Vaguely.
Yeah, I remember Blue Rose.
Yeah, it's I don't know how to describe it other than just say that they call it romantic fantasy, but it's not like it's a very specific genre. It's like if you know the Valdemar books, it's the Valdemar books. It's straight up, that. And it's not. I've been looking through it just to see what I can glean from it. I was trying to run a D&D game before November came along, and then getting stuff together was hard. And also, then I'm like looking at it, going, okay, we're gonna have holidays all through this next 2 months. Do I really want to try and get a game together in November? So I let it go for a bit. I want to come back to it once we're in like January, because after New Year's, it's pretty safe until Valentine's Day, and I don't think most people are that big on a Valentine's Day. So I've been rereading the stuff I wanted to do there. I have the old. I don't know how to explain these. If you don't know what they are, you won't understand them. But do you remember the Iron? You guys know the Iron Kingdoms games. At least two of you. Yeah, and so I have those ones. I have the first rules they put out for 3rd edition, and then I have the rules they put out for their own game, and now they're releasing stuff for 5th edition. So I'm trying to figure out how to pick those up because I liked the concept of the Warjack is something I liked. It's not a mecha you ride around in. It's your giant robot buddy. It's kind of like you have a robot Pokemon that punches things, and I really like it as a concept. It speaks to me. I think it's cool. So I'm looking at that stuff too. So that's basically it for me. Yeah.
And Liz.
Oh, and Earth Dawn.
Oh,
sorry.
That's okay. Liz, what do you got on the cooker there?
Well, I just ran a game of Brindlewood Bay, and I really enjoyed doing that. It's a game that's hard to describe. It's like Murder, She Wrote meets Call of Cthulhu, which you're either going to love that description or you're not going to have any idea what I'm talking about. It's kind of a cozy mystery game, and the thing I really liked about it, reading up on all the books, is that the GM doesn't know who the killer in the murder mystery is. No, I love that because it's not about, okay, there's a solution to this mystery and you have to guide the players to getting to this one specific solution. It's, we are creating a collaborative story together, and there's no answer except for the answer that we decide is the answer. It's the kind of, when you get to the end, you've collected clues and things like that. You theorize who the killer is. You theorize what's going on, and it's just a roll. You roll against the difficulty of the mystery, which each mystery has a number, and you add to your roll the number of clues you have collected. And either you're going to make that roll and it's like, oh, this is the solution to the mystery, or you're not going to make that roll and something's going to happen, and then you're going to eventually come up with a different solution. So I love the vibe of the game is really great because it's got all these cozy mystery things, and then it's also got these sort of little creepy elements that get in. And I also like the way the adventures were structured because, if you run like an adventure for 5e, for D&D, it's this big, it's usually a pretty hefty thing that goes over your characters. Here's what's happening here. Here's what's happening here. Here are all of these settings, and just reading a D&D adventure can be a lot. It can be a lot. And this is just because there is no answer. The adventure itself does not give you an answer. Reading one of these Brindlewood Bay mysteries, there's a setup. There's kind of an introductory setup. And then it's just a list of characters or suspects that are involved in this, and a list of locations with just, a couple of sentences about each. And then there's a list of clues the players can find. And that's it. So I really liked it because there's enough structure that you have something to work with. It's not just some games just don't give you a lot of guidance on, okay, they're just go play the game. So it's enough to run with, but it's also not so limiting that you have to run, that you're really stuck doing things in any specific way. So I really enjoyed that. And I've enjoyed reading the mysteries, even the ones I haven't run. It's just a really interesting world and a really interesting game. And I wish we could play more of it, because it'd be an interesting game to play in a campaign, because it has some cool ways that the story develops and you uncover kind of the cult, the void cult sort of in the background that sort of evolves as you're solving all of these little mysteries. So I really enjoyed reading up on that. I also have, I supported Blades in the Dark Deep Cuts on Backer Kit. I just got those books this week. And so, that's on my to-read list. I haven't done more than open them and gone, new book so far, but on the list. And the Forge of the Artificer, the D&D Eberron Artificer for the 2024 rules, just coming out, and I've done some skimming on that, but haven't read the whole thing. But I'm very excited. I love an Artificer. I love Eberron, kind of the steampunk world and the blend of magic and technology, which is totally everything the Artificer is about. I love that. It's kind of a contradiction, and you can play it either this is all magical, this is all mage stuff, or you can play this is all technological, this is all tech stuff, or you can blend them together. I love the inherent weirdness of an Artificer, and I'm so glad they've come to the 2024 rules. Yeah, but I'm kind of feeling like that's enough. That's a lot of reading that I have before me.
Fair enough. I don't really have anything to add. I've been sort of lacking in my duty as far as like what I've been reading recently, because I have other stuff, but we'll talk about that as we get into. One thing I did want to ask you guys, because it is sort of the season of deep discounts and deals on everything, because we are at that time frame. Did you notice anything, or did anything pop up on your radar in the tabletop space that tickled your fancy at all?
I mean, that's pretty much how I got into the free league stuff. That's why I'm like going, ooh, I like this one. It's weird because there's stuff Free League puts out that I was like, that leaves me cold. Like Tales from the Loop doesn't do anything for me. I don't know why. You think an alternate 1980s thing would be kind of up my alley, but it just doesn't really do anything for me. But Coriolis, especially since they have two, I like the Coriolis stuff. Seems really interesting. But that's basically the only thing I saw as a part of a Black Friday sale, but I didn't buy it because even that was too much. So yeah, that's basically it for me.
Anybody else?
Yeah, I'm afraid no sales have really caught me this year.
I'm going to say up front, I don't feel like sales this year are good enough to make me care. And I don't mean that in a bad way, but it's like when it's like 10% off, I'm like, that's not a Black Friday sale. That's just you felt like putting it on sale. Like,
Yeah,
this should not make me feel like, well, that's $5 off of a $75 book, right?
I ran into one that was really, really good, and unfortunately I held off too long and I missed it. Exalted Funeral was selling Mouse Ritter plus the estate for 50% off, but it was limited quantities, and so I did not end up with either, unfortunately. Exalted Funeral actually has had pretty good discounts. Like it's a minimum of 30% off everything site-wide. So anything vaguely old school or weird indie dungeon crawler stuff like Ultraviolet Grasslands or His Majesty the Worm, or any of the old school Essentials books or Dolmenwood, I think, are pretty heavily discounted for another day or two, I think. Just unfortunately, you won't be picking up Mouse Ritter or the Monty Python RPG, which was a 75% off sale Friday only and is gone as far as I know. Yeah, so they still have some stuff at fairly deep discounts. I might still pull the trigger on Ultraviolet Grasslands because it's just so weird, and it's one of those books that you can kind of use with any kind of, it has a system, but you can kind of use Ultraviolet Grasslands with any kind of system you want. So that's the kind of thing I might still pick up. But yeah, a lot of I haven't seen as many sales this year as usual, unfortunately. How about you, Joe?
So nothing really has caught my eye. One thing that I do want to point out for the people that are listening, because you're probably looking at, maybe getting something for yourself or getting something for the gamer in your life. Instead of looking at just like the online shops and the usual culprits online, I highly recommend, even if you haven't done it before, going to one of your local game stores. So now, this time of year more than any other is when usually they're hurting, because online deals generally take people out of the stores and get them to purchase stuff on like DriveThruRPG or Amazon or wherever, and that's perfectly valid if that's what you're choosing to do. But consider going to a local game store, because they often are running deals this time to try to encourage people to spend more money. But also, every dollar you spend there counts a little bit more than any of the big box stores or some of the mass markets that are out there. That's not saying that you shouldn't contribute to indie developers or things like that you can find elsewhere. But I also know that, at least in my area, a lot of our local game stores stock the indie developed games or zines or things like that. So I would highly recommend taking a stroll through your local game stores and seeing what they have to offer between now and the end of the holiday season. And also, they're also a lot more likely, if you don't know what to get that gamer person in your life, you can ask them questions. They'll probably have a decent answer for you. So this way you can get something that, that person will actually really, truly enjoy. But I think that's going to do it for the op-ed, unless anybody else has anything to add to there. And I think we're going to go right into news. So Wizards is all over the place this season because, one, as Liz was talking about earlier, the Artificer book is going to be releasing, and at the time of this recording, probably in about a week or so. Like, I think it's like 10 days, something like that. Is that correct, Liz?
December 9th, if I recall. It may be the 7th, but I think it's the 9th.
So I know you're excited about it because also it's been pushed back quite a bit.
Yeah. They pushed it about 2 months because of a printing issue. So I am excited to finally get my hands on it.
And you've had it on digital for a while now, right?
Yes, Wizards of the Coast, if you ordered it on D&D Beyond, you get it on D&D Beyond a couple of weeks early. I probably am going to go to my friendly local game store and pick up a physical copy because I love Artificers and I love Eberron and I want to own the book, and I love the variant copies that physical retailers get. They're so cool.
They are, and I think they're still doing the exclusive for I think it's 2 weeks or a week from the official release before they're available online. So another incentive to go to your local game store. Your first run through of it, your first look at it, do you think it's worthwhile?
Well, like the thing about this is that it's there's a power mismatch between the 2024 rules and the 2014 rules. It's because of the way Wizards of the Coast changed how you do ancestries, and everyone now gets an early feat. And so that meant if you were playing D&D, if you're playing 5e, and you wanted to play an Artificer, that it's created because of the rules difference in them, it created a real power mismatch that it didn't feel great. So it made it hard to play an Artificer unless you were going, okay, I'm going to use the last Unearthed Arcana rules or something like that. It's just nice to have a finalized official that fits in with all of the other 5e stuff. There's also a new subclass called the Cartographer, which it's an odd one. And I love the odd ones, though I still think I am a battlesmith at heart because I like my little robot companion. But yeah, we all have the new Cartographer subclass is, well, it's all about map making, and it's another one. I think this leans more into like if you want to play an Artificer and you want to lean more wizardly. Because it is the thing where you are making a map and you have some cool abilities like cool but difficult to explain abilities, I guess. It's like you can use your map to like know where people who also have your map are, if I understand. And you can also let's see, you have a thing called portal jump. On your turn, you can spend an amount of movement equal to half your speed to teleport to an unoccupied space. You can see within 10 feet of yourself or within 5 feet of a creature that is, oh my gosh, see, this is so complicated. Or within 5 feet of a creature that has a copy of your map. So you can, it does all of these things that lets you hop around the battlefield. You can use fairy fire without expending a spell slot, so you have some aspect of control, some ability to see the unseen, to see the invisible. I don't know how well it's going to work in gameplay. It's because it's like your whole thing is, hey, I have a map. I can teleport next to you if I also give you a map. If you have a map, you get an extra 1d4 on initiative rolls. So I don't know how this is going to feel in gameplay. I love the theming of it, though.
Listen, if Hollow Knight and Silk Song have taught me anything, maps are very expensive and very powerful items. So this seems perfectly okay.
And at level 15, for the very few campaigns that get that high, your map actually, if one of your companions is holding a copy of your map, and they would be reduced to 0 hit points, but not killed outright. So you're reduced to 0, but you're not to like double your hit points or whatever equals instantaneous death. They can destroy the map, and their hit points are instead a number equal to twice your artificer level. So, and you're giving all of your friends a copy of your map actually has life-saving implications in the long term. So it's interesting. It's an interesting one. I'm still reading all the subclasses. I'm still here with the battlesmith. And of course, if you are not aware, the official subclasses now are alchemist, armor, artillerist, battlesmith, and cartographer, which, we've seen some interesting unearthed arcana subclasses for this recently, like with the reanimator, which was really a sort of necromancy sort of artificer, which I thought sounded really neat.
Right?
Yeah. But that is not in the book. That's still just unearthed arcana, maybe coming later. I don't know.
I mean, it's an interesting idea because it's a more sci-fi take on necromancy, which goes back to one of the first books of that type. So yeah, I thought it was pretty cool.
It fits very neatly in that is it magic? Is it science? Is it both? That's the niche the artificer lives in, and it's a good fit. It's a good fit taking necromancy, but really going into that like maybe a little more science aspect of it.
Yeah, speaking of recent releases, another one that just came out that we didn't really...
Oh, hold on. Before you move on, I actually have some stuff about this book that I'm interested in.
Go for it.
If you've played Eberron before, and I ran an Eberron campaign back when it first came out, they're bringing back the various playable species and making some changes to them to make them fit better into the current 2024 state of the game, including half-elves, because in the game currently there are no half-elves. If you are the child of an elf and a human, you can be an elf, you could be a human, you can look like an elf, you can look like a human and be the other thing. It's the case for pretty much every hybrid group.
Yeah, instead of having distinct half species in the game rules, it's just like, okay, you can be half whatever you want and you pick which you want to lean into.
Yeah, but in the new Eberron book, they have the Korrivar. And the Korrivar are basically just half-elves, but the reason they exist is because culturally they have an identity. Like, it's not just that they are half-elves, it's that eons ago, elves and humans admixed, and now the Korrivar are basically... They're not... An elf and human don't get together. A Korrivar and another Korrivar have a Korrivar child, and they live in their own culture. It's an interesting way to try and revamp the idea, to have being a half something be cultural rather than just, hey, it's got some stats. There's a specific reason for it that's rooted in the Eberron setting, which I thought was kind of interesting. I don't know how much I'll make use of it in terms of like an actual like I actually kind of like the 2024 rules as they currently are better than to have a specific half-elven race, if that makes sense. I like the species being, you have like I played a dwarf in our Eberron game that we ran, the mystery one that Liz ran.
Yeah.
I played a dwarf who was a 6'6" tall woman because that's just what she was. She looked like a human, but was a dwarf. And I liked that. I think that's a better way to go. So I'm interested in seeing how this works out. Otherwise, though, everything else, I'm glad to see Kalashtar back. I'm glad to see Changelings back. I'm glad to see Shifters back. And, of course, Warforged. I love Warforged. Joe and I played a really fun Warforged in a game once. We were basically two different Warforged, but we were sharing the same body. And I had a lot of fun with that character. I don't know how you felt about it, Joe.
It was a ton of fun.
But yeah, so I'm glad to see that kind of stuff. I'm glad to see all the dragon marks come back, and they're kind of worked into the background of the way the game works now. So you don't get a dragon mark just because you're playing a specific race. You get it because you took a specific background that gives a dragon mark, and then now you're dragon marked. So that's cool. There's a lot of stuff in this I like, and there's even a little bit of a campaign set of things. Because here's the thing. We're not getting an Eberron book anytime soon, like not a real one.
This is a mini Eberron book.
They've once again gone hard on the Forgotten Realms, which I understand. For one thing, it's the world of the most popular video game of the past 2 years. I get why they're doing that, but to me, it means that cool settings like Eberron don't get explored. And we've seen tantalizing products like the gladiators and desert stuff we were seeing for a while there. That was basically Dark Sun without admitting it was Dark Sun. They did preservation magic and defiling magic, but we've not gotten a product. So I'm at least happy there's a little Eberron stuff so you could run a campaign. They have like 3 campaign ideas that they flesh out to a degree. This is all stuff that I'm interested in. So I just wanted to say that there's more here than just Artificers. Artificers are extremely cool, especially if you play a Warforged Artificer, because then you can work on yourself. And it takes on a whole weird new element where you're basically like, oh, I gotta change my arm. So yeah, I'm super into what happens.
Well, going back on the other recent releases, we didn't get a chance to talk about this too much, but the Forgotten Realms or Adventures in Faerun books did release actually this month. November 12th, they came out. And they are 2 books. There's one focused on players, the Heroes of Faerun, the Player's Guide to the Forgotten Realms. And then there's also the DM's Companion, the Adventures in Faerun. And there's a lot of new stuff in there. There's a bunch of new lore, short adventures, the return of Minsk and Boo, because you can never have Forgotten Realms without Minsk and Boo. But there are also some interesting call-outs, at least as far as I'm concerned, and I'm curious how you guys feel about it. We talked about it briefly when it was still in the Unearth Arcana phase, which was the Scion of the 3 Rogue subclass. If you're unfamiliar, the Dead 3 are the gods of tyranny, murder, and death. They are Mercurial, Ball, and I can never remember the last.
Mercurial, Ball, and Bane.
Bane
is actually the most powerful of the 3.
Yeah, if you've played Baldur's Gate 3, you probably have a working knowledge of at least being a Bell spawn. But it's interesting because this is a real departure for a lot of their subclasses as far as what they've been really putting into the game. And I'm curious what you guys think about it, if you've had a chance to look at it. I mean, it's everything from giving you different resistances that you can then reset after a long rest as a cantrip. You have basically psychic damage resistance, minor illusions, resistances to poison damage, and blade ward. You get necrotic damage and chill touch, depending on which one of the ones you're supporting that day. There's also a bloodlust feature, which is very similar to if you've played Baldur's Gate 3 and you played as the Dark Urge, you are now officially a Dark Urge. How do you guys feel about that? Because it seems very antagonistic to a party.
I mean, I think to a certain degree, there are some parties that do evil, and that's cool for them. And you can also do this kind of thing where you're playing it kind of like Dishonored, where you're taking the bargain to achieve a goal, but not necessarily like totally on board with what you're asked to do. I definitely think the class feature level 17 Dread Incarnate should basically be considered the murder form, the avatar of murder from the BG games. It's not even subtle. I do feel like there's a lot of Baldur's Gate 3 is cool, so here you can play this, and I'm not surprised by that. I mean, why wouldn't you want to put more of the incredibly popular game you just put out in your current tabletop game? If you were making one, you'd do that. But I don't know. I feel like to a certain degree, I don't feel like we should have a rogue subclass that is basically all three gods. It feels kind of Diablo-y. Is that weird? Is it weird to say? It just feels an awful lot like the Diablo Primal 3 there.
You're hitting on something that I thought that made me think of and I'll shut up here in a second and let other folks talk. But like, it almost felt going back to 4th edition a little.
Yeah, it does kind of have a feel like that. I mean, not necessarily mechanically.
This is not a negative. This is just an observation, right? Like
no, yeah, I'm not arguing with you on that. I just think it is definitely there is room to say there's some inspiration.
Yeah, it reminds me a little of 4E's Avenger, which was very specifically like your religion themed rogue, which was not a thing that I've really seen come back. This is interesting. I don't have a problem with it existing because I mean, we already have warlocks who are also already selling their souls to devils for power. So why not, a rogue who signs on with the Dead 3 for an array of weird powers.
Yeah, especially since they can still keep being rogue as opposed to having a multi-class into rogue from warlock.
Yeah, I guess that's cool. It's you do kind of have to maybe some of these powers at higher levels you kind of have to explain to your party, I'm still on your side, like at level 13 when you start quote radiating malignant power unquote at all
aura
times.
of malevolence.
Maybe at that point you're like, really guys, I'm on your side, I promise. All this murdering is for the greater good. It's
the
fine.
party walks into a room and there's literally like a trail of bodies up there. You're just completely covered in blood going, oh hi guys, no, I took care of it.
They were all evil. It's fine. It's. I mean, you could also easily play this with like a very anti-hero vibe, drawing on something that we're familiar with from another property. Very. You could play it very like Demon Hunter, like from World of Warcraft. These guys are willingly signing on with like, I'm going to take these powers and I'm going to use them, in a way that the people who gave it to me didn't intend. Never mind that Ball kind of has a history of handling that if it happens, but maybe when you're level 3 he doesn't care. Maybe when you're level 15 is when he shows up out of a pool of blood to just kill you. So it's not what I would have expected from the Forgotten Realms book, is what I'll say. So that's kind of cool. At the very least, this could be really cool for a DM, for an antagonist. So.
Or even a hidden one among the party.
Exactly. Who would do that?
Definitely not us. Do you have any opinions on this one, Liz?
I mean, I think the only important part is if you're playing something that is maybe leans evil, maybe leans antagonistic to the rest of the party, you need buy-in from the whole party, because at some point it's like cool to be the bad guy, but at some point that's also not allowing you to tell stories and have fun as a group. So it's fine to play that way. It's fine to play on evil party or an evil campaign or the anti-hero, but it's like everyone has to buy into that. And because if there's one person who isn't into it, then suddenly it's not everyone is having fun playing this game and having fun at the table. So, but it is cool to have options because not everyone is going to want to play the good guy. And there are tons of great story examples of anti-heroes out there. So there are lots of ways you could take this. And that's what's cool about it, to bring more options of different types of games and different types of characters you can bring even to such a classic class as the rogue, which is like, that's one of your most basic classes in tabletop gaming.
Yeah. And you can always reskin it if you didn't want to have the mythological aspects of it, but you wanted to have the cool rogue powers. You could just make it like some other, you get it from somewhere else, some other force or whatever you happen. If nothing else, it's nice to have another option that isn't the Arcane Trickster. Because like the Arcane Trickster there's nothing wrong with it, but it's a very specific kind of, look at me, I'm an impish, I do things that, I get away with my magical mischief. And this one is much more of along the lines of, hi, I'm here to be like you playing Doom for half an hour, and then I'll be on my way. So
yeah, it kind of reminds me of like if the assassin was magically inclined. Like a lot of their abilities, like if somebody is bloodied, you can teleport to them and make a melee attack. Like that just seems like a melee inclined or a magically inclined version of the assassin, which is cool. And yeah, I think if you wanted to maybe play off the Dead 3 portion of it and just make yourself kind of a magically inclined assassin type rogue, I think, that could work too.
Yeah. And not last, or certainly not least for the Forgotten Realms book, they also added a slew of new magical items that didn't really exist beforehand, which I thought was actually relatively cool, such as the Harper's Pin, which allows you to disguise themselves as a different persona, which you kind of saw a little bit of if you actually paid attention to the D&D movie of recent release. Where the Harpers are an organization that want to hide their identity because it is dangerous to be a Harper, because you are all about that.
Good movie,
very good movie, worth watching. It also allows you to look at surface thoughts at a certain level, and the I think it's like bronze, silver, and gold. The silver one lets you detect surface thoughts as well as the disguise, and the gold one lets you cast a non-detection with a permanent duration until you remove the pin. So it is very on brand for the Harpers, and I thought was pretty neat. The Wind Skiff, which is brand new. It's basically a surfboard with a sail that can hover above the ground and gives you a movement speed of 40, which lets you deal with certain things like difficult terrain or water if you don't have a swim speed, and also can be used as a makeshift slow fall, which I thought was kind of neat, because if you Wile E. Coyote off the side of a cliff while you're on this thing, for every you get to move 5 feet horizontally for every foot of height you have. So every time you lose a foot of height, you move 5 feet. So you can essentially slow fall your way to the ground on this thing without taking a ton of damage, which I thought was really neat. Not to be outdone with the Scion of the Dead 3, you can also have terrible artifacts of power like the Crown of Horns, which contains the essence and intelligence of Mirkul, that god of death, because why not? Because it's made out of his bones. So you can have a cursed item that will transform you into an undead creature that's devoted to Mirkul. Very similar to Act 2 and Baldur's Gate 3. So, if you want to get a preview of that, go look at the crown that what's his name is wearing, because that's pretty much exactly this. More Artificers in Forgotten Realms, which I think is really neat, because before recently, Artificers were generally a Eberron only thing. Like, you can have them elsewhere.
They're connecting them to Gond this time, which is a smart move.
Gond and Lantan. So in this case, they're called Mechanical Wonders, and these are not Warforged at all, but these are essentially mechanical automatons that were created by Artificers. And so with Artificers being big in Gond as far as the new books are concerned, these have become a commonplace thing in the Forgotten Realms. They may be house workers, they may be things that help with shops or on ships. So it's actually really kind of cool, where they're almost like domestic servants. But you could kind of do a whole lot of other things with them as well, depending on how far you wanted to go. And this is the last one. They brought back something that hasn't existed since the first edition of D&D. And I'm sure Matt and Phil will remember this one. The Orb of Damara. It was a magical artifact so potent that the creator of it not only chose never to use it, but locked themselves away in a tomb of rock and stone so that nobody could get it. Turns out, probably a good idea, because when you use it, it turns you into a dragon, and you are not in control of this. You turn into an adult chromatic dragon. Instead, you cede all control to the DM, who now is in control of your adult chromatic dragon form. So
This seems fine.
yeah,
It's one of those things where you use this thing, it's because you are well and truly boned in.
yeah. This is
You're
like
like,
this is like
Yeah.
in case of a god coming to the world and you need
I have
break
killed
glass.
all your allies, and now, once I place the eye of Vecna into my head, you're an adult dragon! What the heck? Yeah, just, even, sure, the adult dragon's evil, but he's not going to like you becoming a god, so let's see what happens. Roll the dice. Yeah, I definitely would go with that.
Oh yeah,
It's really weird you mentioned that the Harper pins. Do you know where they pop up? Baldur's Gate Dark Alliance and Dark
Yeah.
Alliance 2.
yeah.
So I was just playing those because I was waiting for the Outer Worlds 2 to come out. And when you said that they've made them, they're in the books now, I'm sitting there going, oh my, I understand that reference. So yeah, it's kind of nuts to see them going back to the well with stuff. And of course the Orba Damar, which is not something messing around with.
Oh yeah. And then because there must be balance with all the good stuff that Wizards has put out there, doing one thing that is questionable because of course they and this will affect folks that play Magic the Gathering and probably only them, which is they're ending their buy a box promo. So in the past, when you bought a box of cards, a booster box or now a collector's box, you got a special card, a promo card that was the only way to get that particular art style of card. And it was an extra bonus of saying, hey, you bought a box, you went to a local game store because that was the only way you could get the buy a box promos, and you supported your local game store. Here's an extra card just for doing that. And it was a really great incentive. All stores really like it, but they're getting rid of it with the last set that's coming out in early January, which is our return to Lorwyn, which is, elves and they're halflings, what they call them, Kithkin, and basically your high fantasy races done up in the sort of like Tolkien style, I guess would be the best way to put it, really. So it's an interesting choice. They said that they're going to support stores with other incentives, but most of the other incentives I've seen are make sure you run standard, a format which a lot of stores are having trouble getting off the ground. And even at their own tournaments, they are seeing a decrease in attendance in 50% margins from what they used to with other formats. So it'll be interesting to see how that works out. And again, a friendly reminder, still continue to support your local game stores, even if you can't get that fresh, shiny promo. They need your love now more. And on to other news. I don't know who dropped it in here, so I'll just kind of throw it out here. Who was talking about Exodus?
It was me.
Go for it.
They put out, they just released an adventure. Again, it's a few months old. This is somewhat old. Around the time that they did the shadow dropping of the Exodus tabletop RPG, written by James Olin, who's the head of Archetype Entertainment, which is the company that Wizards created to make video games. Exodus is their, I'll just say it, it's one of several. Mass Effect doesn't look like it might come. It looks like it might not come out. So we're making a Mass Effect. And that's not a criticism. Quite frankly, I could do with some more Mass Effects. Make several of them. But at the same time, Olin basically, because he's the kind of person who does this, he was the guy who created Star Wars: Knights of the Old Republic, the original video game, which used the then not really well known Star Wars rules that Wizards of the Coast owned. He just took them and used them in that game. This time he basically took 5th edition and used it to run Exodus. It's essentially the rule system that the video game will be using. And so he basically said, why not just put out an entire TTRPG of it? So now they've got what is essentially a player's handbook, which is called the Traveler's Guide. They've got a monster manual, which I think is called the Galactic Encyclopedia. And they have this new adventure that just came out. It's called Star Heist. The adventure is, I think, fairly recent, but the Let's Play of it is several months old. But it is still James Olin running a 6-part actual play. So if you want to see what it's like to play science fiction D&D with the Exodus rules, you can. And I think that's important because try to buy this game.
Yeah, that's the real problem with the game is you cannot buy it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's currently sold out. And they're putting out a new book. But the other 2 books are sold out, and there's no idea where. And you can't do anything but get it from them.
They're only print books. There's no digital books, and the print books are sold out. So it's kind of, this whole thing is sort of dead on arrival. Like, there was a brief window of time where you could buy it, but it was only in print. It's no digital copy, so that kills it for online play. Just this sounds really interesting, but they've made it so hard to get.
Yeah, I don't
You literally
understand.
cannot get this right now.
I don't get why you would do this. Like why you would create this thing obviously as a promotional move and then make it essentially impossible to get your hands on it. Like, I don't even think you can actually even get it from a store. Can you? Joe, you'd know better than me because you actually run a store.
You can't. It is not available at any of distributors, and there's no deal in place to get any in-store directly from them.
Yeah, and that's
even
I don't want to say ludicrous, but
even Catalyst, the makers of like Cyberpunk and a bunch of others as far as the publication go, who are downright antagonistic to local game stores, still have things for us to get them in stock. But this I can't get.
Yeah, and it's so if you want to know what it's like to run this, you can watch them play it, and that's basically it right now. You can't get your hands on a copy unless you bought it already or someone puts it on eBay. So yeah, it's a wild thing. It's bizarre to me. I don't think this is James Olin's idea because James Olin made 2 really well-selling indie games that you can absolutely get a PDF of from his own independent game company that he is running. He made Odyssey of the Dragon Lords, which we even played back in the day. I used it when we did the Magic the Gathering inspired Greek setting that I can't remember the name of it.
Theros, Mythic
Theros,
Odysseys of Theros.
Yeah. When we did Theros, I actually ran Odyssey of the Dragon Lord stuff in it because they fit together so well. They were both Greek inspired D&D. So yeah, he wrote that, and that's available on PDF. You can get it on DriveThruRPG. I think part of the thing is that his own independent stuff is published by Modifus, and Modifus understands that people need to be able to get the game if you want to get people interested in playing the game. Whereas I don't know who's behind this. I don't know if it's Wizards. I don't know if it's some Hasbro high muckety muck above Wizards. I don't know if it's the Archetype Entertainment itself. The company was like, we don't want people to be playing this TTRPG online before we release the game. I don't know what's going on, but I still wanted to mention it just because at least now you can watch people play it to get some sense of what it is. So yeah, there's that.
All right. Well, let's go ahead and move on to some of the other stuff that's coming out here. One thing I did want to note is that Ghost in the Shell has an RPG coming out. We talked about it briefly before, but the Kickstarter is actually about to be ending at the time of this recording. The release is scheduled for sometime in 2027, and it will be using a modified and hacked version of Forged in the Dark system. So if you're familiar with Blades in the Dark RPG and games that are based around that, you'll have an inkling of what this will look like. It's very interesting that it's getting a release, especially because I don't think there's been anything new in the Ghost in the Shell mythos in a while. But I thought it would be interesting to mention that. I don't know if anybody has any strong feelings about it one way or another.
Didn't they just Standalone Complex? Was that the last thing they did?
No, the Cowboy Bebop RPG was the last thing that this company...
No, I meant...
for Ghost in the Shell.
Ghost in the Shell? Yeah.
They did an alternate one. They did an alternate version of the movie with different...
it was... God, what do they call it? White Maze, I think, was like 2005. And that was the last thing I can remember. Evidently, they had a couple new films in 2021 and 2023, which I have not seen. SAC 2045, Sustainable War, and The Last Human. All I can find is names, so it's still going, I guess.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm interested. I'm interested to see what they did to Forge in the Dark, because I feel like I've banged on this drum before. I feel like most games that use Forge in the Dark do better at teaching you how to play Forge in the Dark than Blades does. So, this will be cool to see if this continues down that trend. I think that's kind of cool for an investigation game. So, it'll be interesting to see how this works. So,
yeah, it's a different take on Cyberpunk than other games that are out. So if nothing else, at least you get to you can explore a different type of that. It's much more about the idea of dehumanization than other games are, which is saying something because it's a major part of Cyberpunk. So,
speaking of other games that are surprising for various reasons, Daggerheart's first expansion is already coming out, and I don't know who put this in there, but I'm going to go ahead and toss this over to you.
Yes, I'm kind of surprised this moved this fast, but as soon as the Daggerheart core book came out, we saw playtest material about it up on the Daggerheart website. Playtests for new class.
Didn't I play one of them?
Oh, we both did.
You did, and so did Phil, bringing a warlock to my world that I specifically said had no magic in. So, but yes, now these playtest books are coming out in a new expansion called Hope and Fear. It is going to be, it includes the, what did they finally decide what this was called?
Which Warlock, Brawler, and Assassin classes? Is that what you're talking about?
Yes, Brawler. I think it was originally the Fighter, not the Brawler.
Yeah, it was something like the Puncher or the Fighter. Yeah, I remember going that. That's original.
Yes, but now it's a Brawler, which does sort of it fits. It's the unarmed combat thing. There's a totally new domain, a dread domain with different spells and abilities in it. It adds transformation to the game, like transformations like vampire, werewolf, shapeshifters, things like that, where you can have this transformation on your character, even a ghost or a demigod. So it adds some new communities, Duneborn, Hearthborn, Frostborn, so kind of different backgrounds for where your character came from, and 6 new ancestries. So it's just a bunch of new character options and 4 new classes, which is pretty cool. So if you enjoy Daggerheart and you want to play more different classes, different things in Daggerheart, yes, this is coming out. I am actually not sure what the release date is.
Summer of 2026. So
Okay.
summer of 2026, which is about a year after the wide release of the initial base game.
Yeah, that seems pretty fast to me. What do you guys think?
Makes me think that this was already in the oven.
I think that's already a known fact. I think this isn't some of the stuff that they've talked about, but Matt Mercer has talked in the past. Like they were already noodling around with the Dread domain, which powers 2 of the new classes, and it just didn't it wasn't there by the time of release. I'm guessing it's probably along the same lines. They've talked about the stuff for helping DMs design enemies. Like they originally had that in the core rulebook, but they couldn't get it where they wanted without making the rule book 50 pages bigger, and they were already pushing page count. So I think this kind of falls in the same way, where this is something that they kind of pulled out to continue working on, and releasing it a year later seems fine. I want to point out that this also continues the Daggerheart trend of being weirdly affordable for what it includes. This expansion, complete with again the all the cards, because everyone loves the cards, and a rip pad of blank adversary sheets, is just $40. For Daggerheart is weirdly affordable for a TTRPG, which I think is cool.
It's also interesting that this is coming out right around the time that Daggerheart's also kind of sort of making a PR blitz. I don't know what else to call it. They got Penny Arcade's Acquisitions Incorporated played Daggerheart at PAX this year. I think it was in September. Maybe it was.
At PAX Unplugged. That was actually, or was it PAX or PAX Unplugged?
It was probably PAX Unplugged, because that's what I'm seeing.
Yeah, that just happened. A couple weeks ago. Yeah.
So yeah, that's to me that was a surprise, because they've never done anything but D&D for their Acquisitions Incorporated stuff. They've run other games at PAX. I'm not saying they haven't, but to see the actual Acquisitions Incorporated people playing Daggerheart was not something I had on my bingo card for PAX in 2025, if you know what I'm saying. So yeah, it's weird how nimble Darrington Press is. Does that make sense? Like they're just a lot quicker on the reaction time.
I would say that you have to also keep in mind that part of that is likely, like what Phil was talking about too, how much of this just didn't make it into the original release that they already had going on, and how long that they've been working on it. They also are very, they started as a very social media focused company. They are aware of streaming and live play and the importance of it. Everybody directly involved in it essentially was part and parcel with helping push that into the mainstream, right? So I don't know that it's necessarily they're quick to react as it's their core tenant, right? They're already built to
maybe.
do it, right?
Or
Yeah, like these. Consider that so out of the 4 classes that they're including, 2 of them were out for playtesting literally like the week after
Yeah.
Daggerheart came
Mhm.
out, which
Yep.
is why we were
Mhm.
able to play them in Liz's game.
Yeah.
And then I think everything listed here, with the exception of the 4 new campaign frames, which we actually know nothing about, like the domain, the subclasses, the transformations, communities, and ancestries have all been up for playtest, starting from pretty much as soon as Daggerheart came out to right after, which I think lends a little more credence to the idea that this just didn't make the core book, and so this is, they've built on it, they've expanded it, they've play tested it, and it's gonna be ready to roll next year, which is cool.
I just found myself wondering if we're going to start seeing products like working, like new stuff that they have in the pipe, because they hired Chris Perkins and Jeremy Crawford this year, and Jeremy Crawford's their game director now.
Yeah, they are allegedly working on some kind of horror-themed expansion, like above and beyond the Dread domain and these spooky classes. Like there is a full-on, like, I guess Daggerheart's Ravenloft, for lack of a better term, is probably how I would think of it. And they are at least one of them is heading that, and as far as I know, it is all systems go. So I think they're really pushing to support this thing, which is cool, because it would have been so easy to just kind of push this thing out the door and then just coast on, we're Darrington Press and here's our game. But they are doing like a full court press, supporting this game and adding stuff to it pretty much all the time, it seems like. So
I'll be interested to see
yeah.
when they start to slow down, right?
Yeah.
How much they have in the, because while they're doing this, and the people that are working on the game, they're also working on the production of Critical Role Season 4 and a whole bunch of other stuff. And I'm not saying that everybody
Which
that works
is
at Darrington,
it's a very involved season.
yeah. And I'm not saying that the people that everybody that works at Darrington Press is absolutely 100% working on Critical Role, because obviously there's separation of duties. But I'm going to be very interested to see when they.
I also want to do a quick plug, sort of related to this. There actually is new playtest material that is not in this book. The Blood Hunter class, which they brought to 5e, is now in playtesting for Daggerheart too. So.
And I did want to get to a question we have here, but before we do that, I just want to mention one other thing that I happen to find that may be relevant to a number of our listeners, which is there is a game coming out that is very much Zelda inspired, called Twilight Sword, which is hilarious in naming. It's from Free League and Two Little Mice, it's on BackerKit.
Hey, Free League.
Yeah, and you may notice that Two Little Mice are the same people that make Outgunned. And that whole setup, but it's a Legend of Zelda series inspired game with sword and sorcery, which also draws on elements of games like Final Fantasy, Kuni, Chrono Trigger, Radia. There's a lot going on here. It's very, very colorful. The box art reminds me of those games, and straight like picking up those games from the shelves in the 90s. Like, this is something to watch. We don't know a whole lot about it besides what's on the backer kit, but you bet your horses we're going to be talking about that as soon as we get more information, or as soon as I can get my hands on some of this stuff.
I gotta say this. Saying it is inspired by Zelda, I am looking at the books and on the backer kit, the core rule book, and the lands of I can't see that word. I think
Radia.
It's
Radia.
Yep. These are the covers to Breath of the Wild. And
Breath of the Wild too.
Tears of the Kingdom.
Yeah.
They are very much wearing their inspiration on their sleeve. Like,
they're not just wearing it on their sleeve; they're dressed up.
They're wearing the shirt. Yeah.
Yeah, they're in Link's costume. They're cosplaying now.
And even their key art is basically 4 different racial champions, like going to battle with different weapons and different body types. But you know what?
I don't want to sound upset about this. I'm
not. I'm here for it. This is giving me life.
Do this. Do a cute, somewhat cartoony, fun action adventure game that can still have big epic monsters and scary stuff, but is fun. We need more fun. I'm sorry, I've become one of those old people who wants to have more fun and less grimdark.
Oh no, Matt likes fun.
Well, just you know what I mean? Like, do we need
no, I get it.
Gore and grimdarkness right now? I'm not saying let's get rid of Warhammer. No, I very much enjoy Warhammer. I liked Rogue Trader quite a lot. But I'm also happy to see a game like this where you could conceivably introduce your kids to this and they play it for years. Like this because you could play this as adults, you could play this as kids. You could do a lot of different stuff with it. I really like this idea. I don't know enough about how it's going to be executed, but I'm here for this game.
I've also banged this drum a little, and I just want to throw this out there. I really like RPGs that have an end, as opposed to just campaigns petering out. Twilight Sword comes with a built-in ending for your game. The Scourge Vardis has arisen. You are heroes. You gather hope. You fight back Vardis's despair, and you know who your big bad guy is. You know that eventually you will be facing off with this Scourge, this villain. You will have your ending, and that's kind of cool.
Although if you're like me, you will spend an awful lot of time going to every other village you possibly can.
That seems to kind of be encouraged. This kind of seems to be a game for people for characters that like to wander and look for despair to fight back against, which is really cool. So I am fighting very hard not to back this. Is what I'll say, because it's very appealing.
Yeah, I have to watch how much I back too. Which leads us kind of strangely into our question here from Molotok of Alaria, which I'm just going to kind of get into and we can address it real quick. Many of the people I know that love D&D and tabletop games in general also love reading, and most of them particularly enjoy Brandon Sanderson's Cosmere Universe, the Stormlight Archive, Mistborn, and so on. I'm curious whether any of you are interested in the Cosmere TTRPG being released over the next year, with Stormlight Archive coming out this year and Mistborn coming out next year. I've been a bit surprised not to hear anything on the podcast about it so far. Are y'all not Sanderson's fans? Or did this news not hit your radar? It was the most funded game in Kickstarter history. I don't know that we're going to talk about that in a second.
Yeah.
I've been really interested to see the rules framework and the way they fill out the world, and was curious if this is something you think y'all would cover at some point in the future. So real quick, I'm not going to speak for everybody, but yes, this is something that has been on my radar, but I have been burned by Sanderson TTRPGs actually being released in the past. This is essentially, I think, the third version of Mistborn that we have coming out over the course of the next year. It has existed when the first set of books was released. There was a TTRPG released almost immediately after, and it was hot garbo. And then there was a fan-made version of it that tried to resurrect it that also did not do good because it didn't quite understand how to gamify the magic system of the world. And that's huge because that's so core, such a core tenet, such a core portion of Mistborn, and even post Mistborn world, right? If you get into the Ally of Law stuff and start digging into that and how the world changes, the magic is at the front and center of it. But yes, it is something I'm interested in looking at, and the Stormlight Archive as well. And maybe I'm in the minority here. While I didn't care for the books as far as Sanderson's writing goes, I enjoy the world. And with the book releasing basically now, it's releasing at the end of November, beginning of December. It's 100% on my radar to pick up and read because I want to see how they handle things that he set up in the world. And I'm hoping that it'll be good. Now I'll kick it over to you guys. I don't know if you have opinions on this, but I know I want to talk about it in the future, but I got to get my hands on the books first.
I'm going to lose my nerd cred here, but I'm going to admit that I do not read Brandon Sanderson. So.
No, me neither.
I can't. This is the reason I have nothing good or bad or even neutral to say about the Cosmere games, is I know nothing about Sanderson's work.
I don't have a personal animus against him. This isn't based on him being a bad person or anything. I've heard he's very nice. I know people who know him, but I have no interest in his world. I'm sorry. It doesn't work for me. I tried reading it. It just didn't like it. That's, which is fine. I'm still happy people are going to have a game in a world they like. That has never been something I feel like has to be the case. Like, it doesn't have to be made for me. But yeah, I just like Phil, I don't have anything to say. It's like, okay, cool. They do that. Good.
Liz, do you have any?
I mean, I'm also I haven't read any Sanderson, nothing against him. Well, I have read his Wheel of Time stuff, which I totally different topic there that I don't have time to get into.
I'm going to say that I've also read those, and I don't blame him for that. I don't think that's his fault.
No, I don't think I don't think it is either. They're totally different topic. I am like Matt that more games for more people is great. This one has not been at the top of my list just because I'm not familiar with the source material. I have had, it's been recommended that I read Mistwalker. I think I just misnamed that. But, it just hasn't made it to the top of my to-read list. And because it hasn't yet made it to the top of my to-read list, you should know my to-read list for fiction just keeps getting longer and longer. It just never gets shorter. So I don't have an immediate draw to these things, but it's very clear that a lot of people do because this game did make $15 million on Kickstarter. It is nuts. I mean, when you have one of these in-depth fantasy worlds like this, that's the thing. You want to live in those worlds. You want to tell more stories, and I think that's the sign of a really good book or fictional setting is that you read it and you're like, I want more stories here. So, and those are the sorts of things that make the best games because there's space to tell more stories or side stories and things like that. So I think tons of potential here, and it's just not top of my list because I am not a big Sanderson reader.
So I will be talking about it a lot, is what I'm hearing.
Yes.
The one thing I did want to note, though, is yes, this is the most funded TTRPG Kickstarter right now by volume of money. It actually has less backers than Avatar did. The difference, no, seriously. So the difference is the price point.
Oh yeah,
right. There were 81,500 backers for Avatar. There are 55,000 backers for Stormlight Archives. The difference is to get the PDFs for the Stormlight Archives, you have to go in at $60. When you were doing the PDFs for Avatar, it was $20. So there is a big gulf there as far as the cost goes in order to get in. Even with the print, the core books and all PDFs for the Avatar was $50. The reader version where you get the books and the PDFs for Stormlight is $95. So there is a little bit of a difference there. That's not saying that it's bad. I'm just pointing it out that, yes, it made a whole lot of money, but less people actually backed it than Avatar: The Last Airbender, which does. Go ahead.
I was just going to say, it does have a very impressive funded by 6,000 times, 6,000% funded, that's pretty impressive when you look at that. But again, it is expensive, and the Avatar books were a lot more.
And this is not me again disparaging it because again I like the world of Cosmere, I like Mistborn, I like Sanderson's writing in particular. I think he has one of the best superhero series available in print. If you've never read the Steelheart series, or was it Steelheart? Wow, Steelheart. It's been a while. But the Steelheart series is one of my favorite superhero anything. So taking nothing away from there. So we will talk about that in the future, Molotalk, even if it's just me forcing people to play through Mistborn at some point because I'm going to do. But we will talk about it. There you go. And just to remind everybody, since I think that's going to do it for today, if you have questions like our friend Molotalk here for this or any of our podcasts, I want you to go ahead and send those in. You can send them into podcast@blizzardwatch.com. All we ask is that you specify what show it's for in the subject line, as well as any special pronunciation of your name. If you want to hit us on Discord, we have 2 channels set aside. We have the Q and Podcast Questions channel, which is open to everybody. Same rules apply. If you are a Patreon supporter, not only do you get access to our shows early, as well as an ad-free site experience, you also get a direct line to our Patreon Q and Podcast Questions channel, where we look there first as an extra bonus for saying thank you for helping support us. And if you can't support us monetarily, we understand that can be a bit tough, especially now as we're moving into the holiday season here. Be sure to share our content, like, subscribe, all that other stuff. And believe it or not, if you are on a platform that allows you to engage in comments, drop a comment, even if it's neat or, man, that Joe guy talks too much. Go for it. All of it is fair game. But I think that's going to do it for today. I do want to thank you for joining us. We'll see you next time.